Hello and welcome to another Intro to Programming and Database tutorial. In this tutorial, we're going to learn about arrays. Now, so far in the past, we have learned about variables. And variables are declared a little bit like arrays, but one difference. Let's first understand why we need arrays and why do we use them. Then we're going to learn how to go about creating an array or declaring an array. What happens sometimes is when you need multiple entities to represent similar kinds of values. For example, if I want to write a program to store and display 15 scores, or if I want to write a program to store and display 1,600 sales amounts, or if I want to write a program to store and display several last names, several first names, several prices, I do not want to be declaring as many variables as the values I need to be holding at the same time in the memory. Rather, to make the namings less and to increase the memory more, we use arrays. So for example, if I had to write a program to store 5 names, initially, before learning about arrays, I would actually declare 5 variables called names1, names2, names3, names4, names5. But with arrays, all I can do is I can create or declare a variable by the name names as string, but now I can promote this variable to an array by writing in parentheses 4. And what 4 means is 4 is the upper bound, considering the lower bound is 0. So by default, all arrays first placeholder in memory, or what we call the first index number, or the terminology used in VB is called subscript. The first subscript is 0. So whenever I say names4 in this particular case, what happens behind the scene is that VB allocates 5 blocks of memory for me, where the first block is 0 block, the second block is 1 block, the third block is 2 block, like that goes all the way to the last block, which is block 4. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, total of 5 blocks of memory. If I need to store 3 values, then I'll say names2, because 0, 1, and 2 is total 3. So this 4 over here is the upper bound, is not the position of the last, is basically the position of the last box. It doesn't mean I need 4 boxes. It means 0 through whatever number I put over here. So these many boxes will be used. So this number is the position of the last box, and VB terminology calls the upper bound. So now, if I want to store values in these 5 respective boxes and display those values back, traditionally, this is how we are used to of putting values in a variable. And this is how traditionally we are to display these values back to user. Now, of course, this is an error because let me get rid of this 4. Okay, now it's going to make sense. Traditionally, this is how we are used to of declaring a variable, storing a value in a variable, and displaying a variable. Now, if I have an array, what do I need to do different in array as? So let's say if I have an array of 4, that means I can store here 5 names. So I need to go to the array and start talking about the position numbers. And I can say, okay, in position number 0, I want to store this name, Saad. I want to display the position number here like that. Similarly, I can grab this code, copy it, and paste it total of 4 more times. And I can change the numbers on it. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is my lower bound, and this is my upper bound. And let me give them different names. And then let me display the values. So I'm going to grab this, I'll copy it and paste it as many times as I have the elements. And that's it. We declared an array of 5 elements. We store those 5 elements, and then we're displaying those 5 elements back. Now, this version of the code is not very efficient, but let's go ahead and run this version of the code. So here we go. We run this version of the code, and here is the output. As you can see, all 5 names are displayed out to the user. Now let's improve this code. In the code improvement, what we're going to notice over here is that if you notice, it's a normal progression. It's an increment of 1. We can very easily control this increment of 1 by using a loop. That's something that we learned last week. So rather, instead of having 5 sets of outputs, I'll rather say, okay, I want to have a variable called counter of type integer to run from 0 to 4, and its auto increments by 1. And I'll simply grab this one console line and place it in the body of the loop, and instead of 0, I'll replace it with a counter. And then I don't need these 4 lines, these additional 4 lines. So this is how this program is going to work. So when this program runs the first time, you'll say the value is, we'll go to the names array, we'll grab the value in the 0th cell, the 0th subscript, because that's what the value of CTR is. Then after displaying that, I'm going to go back and increment the CTR by 1, because that's a default feature of a for loop. It increments by 1, then CTR becomes 1. It goes to names and say, okay, give me a value in subscript 1, which is Yusuf. And then goes back and give me a value in subscript 2, which is Amy, then subscript 3, which is Jacob, and subscript 4, which is Ali. So it basically goes about displaying all of these names in the order in which these names are to be displayed. So let's run this program, and you will notice that it still displays the same output as before, but now we have used loops, so now we have to write less amount of code. Hope this would have answered a lot of your questions that you had, and hope you would have enjoyed this tutorial. Catch you in the next one. Thank you for watching.